Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Taxi operators still upset with the government's handling of traffic ticket amnesty request. Santan councillor says $7 million allocation inadequate to fix Brownstone bypass for festive season. And later in sports, West Indies reply strongly on second day of test against Australia. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shane Masters, and here are the details. Several stakeholders are fearful of a traffic nightmare in Brownstone St. Anne ahead of Grand Market night. They are appealing for the bypass to be fixed with urgency. Codian Barrett reports.
Promises by the St. Anne Municipal Corporation to fix the two bypass have yet to materialize, and the holiday season is approaching. Due to the dilapidated condition, motorists are forced to travel through the town.
We have a bypass round here, need to be fixed. Over 3-4 years now, nothing done to one at Liberty Valley coming up. So you can bypass, go round by York Castle. You have one up by the hill, Pony Hill. Well, Pony Hill, them touch up little top with Pony Hill. Then you have round by the Wesleyan corner around there. There's a disgrace to know directly that we have so many bypass, and at the end of the day, none of the representative that we have don't take care to look after none of them.
According to the mayor of St. Anne's Bay, Sydney Stewart, $7 million was identified for remedial works. But JLP councillor of the Dry Harbour Division, Carlton Ricketts, says that's a waste of time.
Chairman, over a 3-year span, these bypass has never been worked on, right? And the kind of deterioration on these roads, there is no way $7 million can do anything that will show any work so that it look as though it is manifestly done. And 2 sets of bypass, Chairman. This is a joke. It is a joke. You have to wheel and come again.
While acknowledging those concerns, the mayor, Sydney Stewart, provided this explanation.
But at this point, the municipality is not in a position to find the financial resource to do what is really required to ensure that all of Stanford and other years are taken care of. But we go into next year, we are going to be looking at the comprehensive estimate. If that money is realized, then we are going to be asphalting all of those roads so that when we get to 2023 December, there will be no requirement for us to do remedial work.
In the meantime, head of the St. Anne Police Division, Senior Superintendent of Police, Dwight Powell, says his team are exploring a temporary solution.
We have engaged a municipal corporation. They have given us their commitment with respect to having these side roads fixed so that some of the trafficking problems can be alleviated in the short term, whilst, of course, we look at the long-term measures that need to be executed in order to ensure that we deal with these problems effectively.
Codian Barrett, TVJ News.
The Cumberland High School in St. Catherine was forced to revert to the online teaching modality in a bid to avert the impact of the transportation crisis. Now, meanwhile, classes at the St. Jago High School and St. Catherine High Schools were reportedly cancelled for the day. Amidst growing complaints about untimely garbage collection in St. Mary, public health authorities are warning against the worrying trend in the types of waste being dumped in public spaces. Chief Health Inspector Rupert Stevens raised the issue at a recent meeting of the municipal corporation.
Amid the accumulation of solid waste in the metal and concrete skips, that there is the presence of rotting meat and at times dead animal carcasses in these skips. This has resulted, Mr. Chairman, in the proliferation of flies and increased harborage of rats, as also unbearable stench coming from these receptacles.
He says it makes the work of solid waste workers that much harder and brings discomfort to residents.
There is one at Cricket River in Anata Bay, and there is one in Highgate close to a nursing home along the Fraserwood Main Road. and there's another in Retreat, just above the health center at Retreat.
The bin is being used from other people in and around the area. So we can put it on these people here in this community. They are the one.
There are calls this afternoon for more to be done to fix issues within the education sector. Speaking at a function put on by the Westmoreland Chamber of Commerce recently, President of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, Keith Duncan, says with a number of Jamaicans without a skill, this affects productivity and the growth of the country. Shamala Pullen reports.
All hands on deck. That's according to President of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, Keith Duncan, who was exploring how to fix the education system in the country. Mr. Duncan pointed to a local study which shows that 1/3 of Jamaica children leaving school are unable to read.
56% could not write. 56%. 57% could not identify information in a simple sentence. However, and our education spending is ranked as a percentage of GDP, we're spending in comparable amounts to our peers. So we're not getting the educational outcomes that we want.
As a result, this affects the country's labor force. Mr. Duncan says of the approximately 1.2 million people working, 62% have no certification, which means Jamaica doesn't have a skilled workforce.
Now, if you don't have a skilled workforce, then how are you going to drive productivity and growth? Then your productivity is going to be low as a country. If your productivity is low as a country, then what happens is that you have what you call a low wage model, because the jobs, the investments that you can attract as a country are investments that require low skilled workers, because you can't find the computer programmers, you can't find the high skill, you can't find the people with that new economy is looking for, because we're not training up our people.
And so Mr. Duncan is of the view that more needs to be done to address these education sector issues for the country to move forward.
But there needs to be mindset change, because you have to believe, everybody believes, says, look, you have a leader like Moses down here and SSP, right? And the CEO of the municipal authority that believe in collaboration and working together, that we can start to actually believe that it is possible for us to become the Singapore of the Caribbean, and that we can make the changes in our country to move us in the right direction. We have a strong footing right now on the macroeconomic side. Let's build out our people side now and get it working.
Shamala Pullen, TVJ News.
And it's time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Transport operators are at odds over how to deal with the government's decision not to grant them an amnesty to facilitate payment of outstanding amounts for accumulated traffic tickets. The operators say it's been weeks since they presented a payment proposal, but are still awaiting a response. Codian Barrett reports.
Some taxi operators have once again withdrawn their services following the government's announcement of the implementation of a system on December 1 that would see drivers who have acquired multiple traffic tickets being penalized, to include their licenses being suspended. The transport operators are seeking to get a payment plan in place so that drivers are not affected by the new system.
If we get the amnesty, you can pay them up easy and clear them up. Huh? Some of the time we get whole ticket daily, so some of the time date them all pass and I realize, because every day we get ticket out, every day.
We want the amnesty, man, because when we look and see, man, gunman I get amnesty. Give no man, give it just like when we collect much million, we never refuse and pay. We never refuse and pay, man. We beg it again, man. I beg no, man. Just some time we get the ticket. I mean, I tell you, so we pay a ticket same time, we put them dead for hungry, they can't go to school, and in my future, and in my next future.
But other transport operators in St. Catherine, St. Mary and St. Thomas have decided not to take part in the strike. According to one taxi operator in Highgate, St. Mary, operators should have protested when there were rises in the cost for traffic breaches.
At them time, they then if you protest and make them know say they can't raise. They can't move from $500 for one seatbelt ticket to $2,500. And then you go accept it in time there, and you don't find no problem. But when time you can't pay, you go boss you one more time. No man. Fight feet when time you raise, man.
2 weeks ago, transport operators in different parishes withdrew their services for 2 days, almost crippling the country. Several schools and businesses were significantly impacted by the withdrawal. The public transport operators have requested a traffic ticket amnesty, but to date, the government is still discussing the matter. Kodian Barrett, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, Transport Minister Order Shaw has again reiterated that the government will not be intimidated by threats of strike by unruly public transport operators. He says the issues are being examined carefully. As for persons with outstanding traffic tickets, he's again imploring them to start paying. Mr. Shaw says those with large numbers of outstanding traffic tickets should ask the courts for a payment plan. And for the latest in the world of business, here's Kodian Barrett.
Women who are focused on venturing into or improving their formal business operations will now be able to participate in a Woman Entrepreneur program. The program, devised by Wilco Finance Limited in partnership with a number of other entities and organizations, was launched on Tuesday. The program was initiated through the provision of access to finance solutions through working capital support, fixed asset purchase, and debt consolidation. In business overseas, the head of the U.S. Central Bank has said authorities may start to ease up on interest rate hikes as soon as this month, after racing to raise borrowing costs earlier this year. The Federal Reserve has made 4 hefty 0.75 percentage point rises since June in a bid to curb inflation, which is the rate at which consumer prices rise. Federal Chairman Jerome Powell said it makes sense to slow down to assess the impact of the moves. Markets soared following the comments. That's it for the Business Minute. I'm Kodian Barrett.
And now for the top regional and international stories. News in the region. The captain and a 5-member crew on board a barge off Trinidad's west coast were rescued on Wednesday after the vessel toppled and sank in the Gulf of Paria with 900 barrels of diesel fuel aboard. No injuries were recorded. Footage of the incident posted to social media showed the vessel toppled over in the deep water and partially submerged. Large tugs were involved in the rescue effort. The Ministry of Energy in Trinidad said that systems were in place to ensure that there were no oil spills during the process. However, it noted that oil spill response equipment is on standby in the event a spill response is required. It further noted that an investigation is underway to determine what caused the incident. On the international scene, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is facing calls to step down from opposition leaders and even senior figures in his ruling African National Congress Party, after an independent panel found there is initial evidence that he could have violated his oath of office. The findings relate to an ongoing scandal linked to the theft of more than $500,000 in cash from his private game farm in 2020. Now, the panel led by a former Chief Justice found that the crime was not reported to the police and that there was a deliberate decision to keep the investigation secret. A spokesperson for the Office of the Presidency said the report will be studied and an announcement made in due course. And those were the top regional and international stories. We head to a quick break. When we come back, Jordan Ford will have your midday sports report.